Hey, it's Becky, and I had a reader send me an email where she was asking about transitioning from early education to high school. That she kind of has the same homeschool style as me, which is kind of like a winging it, having fun, life schooling. And as they're stepping into those higher ages of education, she's finding that she's losing her joy for homeschooling, and that her and her child are starting to go, and I'm reading, it's like they went from playing and learning and absolute delight of learning to total dread of school. She's looking for advice. And so I wanted to talk about the fact that we overcomplicate schooling at all ages and stages. That's all of us. I've actually not bumped into a homeschooler that doesn't struggle with that at one point or another. And so how have I transitioned into high school? Because everybody will do it differently. What works for my family may not work for your family. And what works for your family almost certainly won't work for my family, because I'm a homeschooler and I like to reinvent the wheel. So when my kids were little, we were big on thematic learning, where we would pick a golden thread of something, usually from history, and then we would wrap everything that we were learning around that. So and I always use the example of the Native American unit that we did as a class, a house. We have enough kids that I had a class inside. But when we did Native Americans, we did all of our history and science and art projects and reading and writing, all wrapped around that. The same thing can happen when the kids get older. But the world starts to encroach on us and expose the fact that we are worried more about checking off little boxes in our curriculum than nailing our homeschool goals. And I'm saying that to myself. It's really easy to forget what our master homeschool goals are. So if you're struggling making that transition from the really fun ages up to, okay, now I'm starting to get scary because things like transcripts and graduation and life I can see that coming in the future. Usually the reason that we get all concerned, the reason that I start to stress, is that I take my eyes off the prize. I take my eyes off the goal. So I want to encourage you over and over and over again to have your master homeschool goals nailed. And if you haven't taken the time to do that, that would be where I would recommend that you start. What are your master homeschool goals? For me and my family, our master homeschool goals are that we share our faith with our kids in very real, tangible ways, that that we pass on our faith to our kids. Our second goal is that they understand their fundamental math facts. Everything and anything they're going to touch in real life. So that's going to be money and measuring and budgeting and decimals and percentages and all the things that lead up to that, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, etc. So math facts. Then they're going to be marinated in literature, loving to read. And then they're going to be excellent communicators, both written and oral. Everything we do is run through those goals. So as you're transitioning into high school, you can look at your master goals and you can say, okay, if my kids are needing to understand all their basic math, that means that you don't rush them into those higher math classes until your foundation is set. So if they need to know their decimals and percentages and conversions of measurements and all those things, and you feel the peer pressure of putting them into geometry or algebra 2 or whatever, then you're going to skip past your goal, and then the curriculum is going to own you. And you don't want to be run by curriculum. So number one, know your homeschool goals. Number two, have a vision for where your kids are going after high school, as one of my kids comes down the stairs. So have a vision for where your kids are going after high school. Right now, all of my kids are on a college path. And in fact, by the time they're juniors, seniors in high school, they're doing high school and college at the same time. It's a program that our state offers, concurrent enrollment, which means that they can earn their high school diploma and their associate's degree at the same time by taking those junior, senior classes at the community college in a way that it fulfills the requirements. And because the kids are academically solid, because they do know how to communicate clearly and they do have their fundamental math facts, they're able to step into that environment and thrive. But that is a fit for my family. So when you're transitioning from, hey, let's play with Play-Doh type learning and let's learn about written communication, then you need to then have your goals for what does that mean. So for instance, if you're going to be teaching your kids to write, you start with the goal, not they need to learn how to write an essay or a research paper or different kinds of poetry, but instead you need to focus on the goal of writing, which is communication. And in order to communicate through the written word, you need to understand who your audience is, what type of communication you're going to be doing. Is it a resume? Is it a friendly letter? Is it a business letter? Is it an essay? And then you need to fine-tune your language for that audience. It's okay to use big words in your written communication, but you always mention a big word and then define it so that your audience isn't lost with your speak. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. High school can be super intimidating because that's when you start to feel college life and pressure really start to breathe down your back. You start to feel like, oh, I'm about to have my final exam. Was I an okay homeschool mom? Did I fail as a homeschool mom? And it really starts to nag you, kind of like a monster in your closet type thing. But don't lose heart. Don't freak out. It's okay. Refocus on your goals. Figure out where your kids are headed. You know, what's next? Are they going to do a trade school? Are they going to immediately join the service? Are they going to a community college? Are they going to go to a four-year college? Once you know what that is or what you think it's going to be, then together with your child as a unit, you do the research of what it takes to do that thing. And then you laser your sights on that. And so it's very different. It's different than following a curriculum where you're saying, okay, we're going to do 9th grade this and 10th grade that and 11th grade this. The curriculum can be overwhelming if you just have to teach your child geometry. But when you realize that your child doesn't need geometry as a class to complete what it is they're supposed to do, then you can let go of geometry and they can choose to do that later if it fits into their plan as their life changes. So anyway, that's kind of it in a nutshell. If you have any questions, let me know. I specifically recorded this answer out here so that I can share the link to the gal that asked me the question. But I also know it's a big concern because it's intimidating when you step into the higher learning of high school stuff, because it can be overwhelming, but almost always it's overwhelming because we're looking at curriculum and what other people think our kids should learn. And we need to become very good at taking a step back and seeing what the actual purpose is for any and every activity academically that we're having our kids do. It's not to pass a test. It's not to get a good grade. For instance, one of my kids is, he's getting ready to do his senior year in high school as he's learning his associate's degree. And his whole goal is to not only finish well, but to become an expert help seeker. And so as he is transitioning into school, still under the umbrella of me watching over his shoulder, he is doing his assignments, going to class, connecting with students, learning how to navigate the tutor center and office hours with the professor, whether he meets them in person or via email. And our whole goal together is to teach him how to seek help, because we all bump into issues where we don't know how to do something, and we need to be confident in seeking out assistance. So that's a really good high school goal, is learning to find the help that you need, even in this kind of a thing. How do you figure out what do you do for high school? So identify your master homeschool goals. If your kids are in high school, they need a goal for where they're headed right after high school. They don't need to know their whole life. It's very likely that they're going to change careers over and over a few times. There's actually, I'll add a link to this. A friend of mine, she's a homeschool, she provides homeschool classes. She has a class called Orienteering, and it teaches kids a lot of these life type skills that they need. And if you're looking for things for kids to do in high school, classes that will really set them up for success, then orienteering would be a good one. Or looking for high school electives that really add value to your child's life, so that it's not just page 47 of a book or this textbook that means nothing to them, but maybe it's a class that really adds some value, like setting up a store on Etsy, or learning to play a musical instrument, or orienteering, where they get that confidence as they figure out how to orient real life. So anyway, that's it. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.